I'm Coach Horn, and this is
Coach Groves, the one and only.
all right. Here today, we're going to talk about some timelines.
Timelines.
Let's get excited. Yes.
Yes, we're very excited about timelines. Let's go.
Yes. Let's get into first the vocabulary of the timelines, and we're going to first talk about the word. It's called chronology. All right. And basically, all this is that events come in a order. You have the oldest all the way up to the newest. And you'll see that historians, that's how they organize the time. That's how it's organized. It's how everybody can see what's going on. And when you're looking at the timeline, you can see this, reading it just like you do in a book. Reading the oldest dates on the left, newest dates on the right. And we'll talk about some of those numbers in the...
And you guys have heard about putting things in chronological order. So the word is chronology. Sequence of events, especially in history, are really important.
All right. So in timelines, sometimes they're organized in different ways. Sometimes they're organized in decades. All right. And what that means is every 10 years. Every 10 years, you'll have something separate that happens. That makes it easy to understand what's going on, easy to follow the organization in decades. Sometimes you have
time periods that you want to look at the major events that are bigger than decades. And what's bigger than a decade is a century, a 100-year time period. So right now we are in the 21st century. And what are some, Coach, let's talk about the 20th century. None of our students were alive during the 20th century, but the majority of our lives were in the 20th century. What do you think were some of the major events that happened in the 20th century?
So in the 20th century, you have World War I, World War II, Vietnam War. And why I'm saying those, you might be thinking right now, if you're engaged right now, you'll see that centuries are tricky. If it says 20th century, all those dates start with the number 19.
That's right.
So 1901, first year in the 20th century. Actually, 1900.
Right.
Fall into
Right.
that. January 1900 is the first day in the 20th century.
And here's why that's tricky, because if you go back to the year number 1, we're going to be talking about AD and BC and all that kind of stuff. But if you go back to the year 1, that's the first century. So all the way up to year 99. And then at the year 100, that's going to be considered the second century.
All right, so I'm going to quiz you real quick, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to say the century. You say a date in that century.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
17th century.
1650,
18th century.
1799,
10th century.
997.
And he is good. So
Yeah.
here we go. 21st century.
How about 2020?
20, that's right. That's good. Okay, so centuries, a little bit tricky. Slow down. Think about them. You know they're 100 years. But which 100?
That's right. And then there's something bigger than that.
Much bigger, yes.
1,000 years.
Yes, millennium.
Millennium, that's right.
Some of y'all may remember, some of you won't. I know your parents remember. When we crossed over from 1999 and 2000, everybody said we're entering a new millennium.
That's right.
That's right.
And so here's why we're talking about these words. Because we use these words, we use decades, millenniums, and centuries to help us organize time. That's how time is organized when you're talking about time over a long period.
And here's something fun. As you study history, a lot of your classes, they'll be in centuries. You get into the second half of world history, you're only going to study about 500 centuries. That's it.
Yeah.
So about 500 years.
That's right.
But this class that we're in, we're studying millenniums.
Yeah.
We're studying like 9,000 years of history, maybe even more.
That's exactly
All
right, Coach.
So we're looking at millenniums, or thousands of years. All right.
Very good, very good. So what is a timeline? You know, we've got chronology, we got things that are in sequence, we understand that. A timeline is like a graph, which shows how time passes. Usually, this is shown on a line. And this can help students of history to see how things happen in order.
All right. So, in these timelines, again, we mentioned this earlier, but they can occur or they can be created in lots of different ways. Sometimes they're not organized very well at all. They'll just have random dates on the timeline. All right. But many times, the ones that are really organized and fun, they'll come in. There's a decade.
Yes.
There's another decade. There's another decade. And it might be organized into centuries. When you look at a timeline, again, you read it from left to right.
So you can see what happened.
Oldest.
Yeah.
Also see what happened. So let's say at the beginning of a war or the beginning of an empire. Let's talk about the Roman Empire. One of the timelines you have to look at is the Roman Empire. All right, when did it begin? If you look on the left side of it, you'll see it began in 27 BCE. And then some time went on, and then 45 CE, and we'll talk about those CEs here in a little bit. Some things happened. All right,
That's
some
right.
barbarians attacked. All right, the Romans, in a certain part of it. That's right. Oh, it's exciting. You'll get into it. And then tell me this, Coach, since you're looking at the timeline.
Yes.
What happened in 476 CE?
The Roman Empire fell.
Right. All right. Very good. All right, guys. So we know this. So timelines are a simple concept, and they are a useful tool. The thing is, once you use them a few times, you'll see the importance of them. You get to see events happening over time. You can see that some things happened a long, long time ago, and some things they happen very more recent to you. A useful tool. Learn how to use them. Questions, comments?
I think we're good. We're going to carry this a little bit further in our next video where we're looking at the second part of timelines. We're going to get into that BC, CE, and all of those things.
BC,
So,
AD.
It's going to be good.
CE.
What does all that mean? Let's talk about
We
it.
be seeing you later.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it
PGH. Hey,
BC?
what do you want to say? What do you want to say here?
Let's move.
Oh.
Always remember to be positive. I don't know. You guys are awesome. Stay tuned.
Keep
Like and
on
subscribe.
dreaming. Yeah. Woo.